Welcome guys to another video. I wanted to talk about this just happened about an hour ago. I got an update on my Google feed, and this information is regarding Colorado football again. Hopefully you guys can hear me clearly with the rain. I am in my car, as you can see, and it's raining out here. So hopefully that the drops of rain doesn't take away your attention off of what I'm going to be doing on this video. All right, similar to the last video that I did, or the previous, not the last one, but the video before the last one, I'm going to be reading another article from, this is a CBS article, and it's regarding Colorado Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders. It's about them blasting critics and former player during social media exchange. The Sanders family made waves on social media with some interesting engagements this week. So it's a family affair. I've said this before, and I don't think that many of you want to see it that way. You guys would rather see it as just a normal coach coaching a normal team or coaching a team, but the dynamic of Colorado football is very peculiar, to say the least. It's peculiar because you have a father who's the head coach of the football team, and you have a son that's arguably the best player on the football team. And then with the emergence of NIL and the money factor that's behind the branding and behind the being able to sell your name for revenue and make profit off of your name, it's turned the situation in Colorado into a circus. And there's a complex dichotomy that's surrounded the team. It's complex because of the relationship dynamic between coach and son and other sons on the team, including adopted son Travis Hunter. Because Travis Hunter is his project. If Travis Hunter does well, Coach Prime is going to be the one to take the credit for finding him and flipping him from a major Power 5 conferences to come to a HBCU, and then taking him from HBCU to Colorado. And to see Travis Hunter do well would be a notch on the belt of Coach Prime, to say, I'm the one that found this guy, and I'm the one that found this talent and flipped him to come to me, to play for me, and I'm allowing him to do what he wants in terms of playing both sides of the ball. So that's a notch on the belt of Prime. That's not more so about Travis, that's more so about Coach Prime. Does Travis benefit? Of course he benefits. Both are benefiting off of it, but more so Coach Prime benefiting more. Now, going back to the dichotomy aspect that I'm talking about, you have the relationship between son and coach, and then you have the rest of the team. There's an inevitable divide that's there, folks. I don't care how many team activities you incur. I don't care how many team activities you enact. I don't care how many team activities you perform, how many rah-rah speeches you make. The youth these days, no matter how many times the older generation tries to cast a negative outlook on the younger generation of these days, they're much smarter than we think. They're much more cerebral than we think. They are much more inquisitive than we think. We think just because they're on their cell phones a lot, and just because they're doing social media stuff a lot, that they're not in tune with reality. They are. They're just more cerebral. They know reality. They're technical. They're more technically advanced than us. They are. There's certain things that they lack, but to try to downplay the youth of this era as if they're worse than the older generation, no. I made a video before talking about how the younger generation are smarter than the older generation. That they're waking up to the BS of what this matrix world is offering, and they're starting to kind of push back. But that's a story for another day. I want to stick to the topic at hand and talk about this article that I'm about to read. and this is just my prelude before I get into the article. I want you guys to have a prefixed mindset before I get into my analysis, because when I get into my analysis, then you'll start to see why I'm saying some of the things that I'm saying. And you don't have to agree with my prelude. You don't have to agree with it, but I'm telling you where my mindset is at. I think it's fair that I do that. It's only fair that I do that. It's courtesy. So if you guys do give me a rebuttal, or you guys do have something to say that's contrary to what I'm saying, then you have a well-formed foundation of why my thought process was the way it was before I began. Okay. You have a dichotomy. You have coach and son relationship, or coach and son's relationship. The NIL money. All right? The NIL money, the fame, the notoriety that comes with the Sanders brand. It's not just Sanders the coach, it's Sanders the sons. And there's a have and have-nots theme that's riddled all over the locker room. It's riddled through the team. It's a translucent energy. It's a invisible form of energy that you can't see. You can't see the dividing stick. There's no line in the sand that you can actually see and say, okay, these are the haves and these are the have-nots. All right? It's an unvisualized energy in the locker room. You can't see it. You can't touch it. You can't taste it. Scientific observation cannot be used to even measure it. On camera, it looks like everything's all one. Looking at well-off media, or looking at the ones that are blind, passionate, supporters of Colorado football and Coach Prime. I use the key word blind and passionate because passion blinds you. Passion is all emotion, and it blinds you with logic. So you don't think logically, you think passionately. And when you think passionately, you tend to marginalize the logical aspects of a situation. You just go in head first emotionally. So those that have a blind passion for Coach Prime in Colorado, you're going to see everything as kumbaya. But it's not. Because due to the head coach and his mentality and his approach, the players that come there will inevitably come there for clicks as well. So when Cormani made the statement that I don't want to play for clicks, to me that's an epiphany for him. That's a revelatory statement for him, because initially he did come there for clicks. He followed Coach Prime. He wanted just looking and hearing Coach Prime speak lets you know automatically this is not your average run-of-the-mill coach. He's very flamboyant in his presence, in his articulation, in his cadence, everything that he does and says. He's very appealing, enticing, attractive. So this idea that Cormani doesn't want clicks, he did. Initially, he did. He did. But now he has a change of heart. He understands that pursuing clicks is not the best thing to do. And to me, I think that should be worthy of praise to a certain degree for Cormani. Should be specifically praised for that acknowledgement that he doesn't want that anymore. He saw how far he can go with that. And this is not to say that he has no blame, no accountability, or there's nothing on his end that he could not have done better to improve his situation. I'm sure there are many things that he could have done he could have did and should have done to change his current situation. But going back to that dichotomy, so you have coach and son, and you have rest of team. Coach and sons and rest of team. Now, when I say rest of team, I'm not saying that the rest of the team in totality, 100% of the rest of them are against Coach Prime and his sons. But the way that Coach Prime singles out his son and Travis Hunter It's nauseating to a degree. Why? Now, as a father, anyone out there that's listening to me right now, if you are a father and you have a child that's immersed in sports, we know how we are as parents. We are overly zealous about our kids' success, whatever that they're doing, whether it's playing an instrument, whether it's engaging in a sport, whatever it is. We are passionate because we want to see them excel and do well. And there's nothing wrong to have passion for your child. There's nothing wrong that Prime has passion for his son. But when you put on the hat as a coach, there's certain things that you have to stop saying. Because you're not only a coach, you're his father and he's your son. So it's not like a regular coach saying something about another player on the team. It's a coach / father talking about a player / son. So there becomes this kind of mushy and cozy, unnatural but yet unnatural to the dynamics of a locker room kind of thing going on. It's nuanced, but it's not nuanced. It's intricate, but yet it's not, because it's weird, because it's like you're two, but you're one. You're a coach, but you're a father, but you're a father, but you're a coach. He's your son, no, but he's a quarterback, but no, but he's your son. So you see how all of those things are, it causes confusion. But it shouldn't be that way. But it's perpetuated to that degree of confusion due to the way that Coach Prime articulates his sentiments about his quarterback / son, or should I say son / quarterback. It starts to create a bitter taste in the mouth of the others that are on the team. Now, the newcomers don't know. The newcomers just come in there to embrace the hype, to embrace the light, the camera, the action. They want to embrace the lights, the glimmer. They want to embrace that. They want to be part of that. Coach Prime even talks about that. He says, don't come over here and play if you're not ready for all eyes to be on you. Millions of people are watching. Are you going to show up during the bright lights, or are you going to fold? So players who are coming there, they're coming there with a football mindset. I want to come dominate and play for Coach Prime, and I like what he's doing. That's what most people who transfer, that's the mentality that they have. But once you've been on the team and you see how the coach operates, how he's quick to throw his own offensive lineman underneath the bus, doesn't fully take accountability for some of the actions that he takes, some of the decisions that he makes, would put coordinators underneath the bus. When he was asked why you guys aren't running, he's like, we got to mix it up. But not being totally genuine, knowing that the reason why you guys were not mixing it up is because it was coming from your lead. It was coming from your directive. You did not want the offensive coordinator to take the ball out of your son's hand, because you were on a mission to make sure that America knew that your son was a Heisman Trophy candidate. There was an agenda that was there. The first game, Travis Hunter does something, you're on camera saying, oh, if he caught, remember he made I think it was a TCU game, I believe. They said that if he caught that touchdown or caught that interception, the Heisman would be at his house right now. And I understand what Coach Prime is doing. So the onlooker is, oh, he's showing that he has belief in Travis Hunter. He's speaking him up. Or he makes certain statements about Shedeur being a top pick in the draft and saying that he's one of the best, that if he had more time to throw, that his numbers would be better. Like, you don't need to say all those things, Coach Prime. You don't need to say all those things. Because the level of critique that's going to come towards Coach Prime is going to be much different than any other coach. Because number one, that's your son. And not just critique from insignificant people like me or people on television. I'm talking about critique within your own locker room with the players. See, people forget that players have voices too. People forget that players have a mind of their own too. It's not just the little minions and the coaches that are on the team that are always rah, 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 rah. The players are absorbing all of this stuff. And they're able to compartmentalize and understand it. And they can see what's going on. When people were talking about the reasons or speculating on the reasons why Dylan Edwards, Alton McCaskill, Wilkerson, and why a couple of players were leaving, is because they can see that it's daddy ball and everybody else. Everybody else are just disposable parts to my agenda. That's the message that's sent. Now, whether that's in the heart of Coach Prime, I don't know. But the way he operates as that's the message that's being sent. So players who have been there already for the first time with Coach Prime, they're like, well, this is what it is. I'm going to just stick around for it. Players that are new don't know what they're coming into. So, can we make a blanketed statement and generalize and say that everyone who says something negative about Colorado's program and Coach Prime is lying and making it up? Or are we going to say that everything that they're saying is true? Well, it has to be somewhere in the middle. Because everyone, you and I, we all do it. We all digest information differently. Just like our bodies are different. Some people have a higher disposition to get diabetes than others. Some of the times it may be genetically, you may be genetically exposed to that principle, to that genome in your cells when you keep intaking toxic foods. Your symptoms may be different from mine. Nevertheless, we're still going to have a dis-ease. But the way you show your symptoms may be different from the way I show my symptoms. I say that, I'm bringing that analogy into this to let you guys know that the way a player interprets their experience underneath Coach Prime's leadership is going to be different from somebody else's. And everyone is entitled to feel the way they feel. Now, what we cannot do is try to insert motive as to say, oh, this player just hating because he didn't get playing time at CU. So he left to go to another school. Now he wants to talk bad about Colorado because he's mad because he didn't get playing time. Really? We can't do that. We could assume that, but we can't really stand on that as a strong foundation and think that that's going to have legs to actually move and make room in anyone's mind. It's not going to go anywhere because we can't read motive unless somebody actually comes out verbatim and says, this is the motive, this is why I'm doing it. And that's rarely ever done. So that's the premise that I'm standing on right now, that there's a dichotomy in the locker room. There's Coach Prime and his sons and adopted son Travis Hunter, and there's the rest of the team. It's Coach Prime and his agenda for branding, his agenda for his sons, his agenda to make sure that they make it to the NFL, and then everybody else. The team is not seeing it as coach and everyone together. It's more like, coach, my sons, and you guys do what you need to do to make sure my son gets to where he needs to go. It shouldn't be that way. Now, if Shedeur was not the son of Coach Prime, then some of the things that Coach Prime says would be permissible, because it's typical of a coach. It's a no-brainer here. It's typical of a coach who has the best player on the team, and he's telling all the players on the team, make sure he gets the ball, put the ball in his hands. Put the ball in so-and-so's hands. We need the ball in so-and-so's hands because we have the best chance to win when he has it. It hits a little bit different when a standard coach is talking about another player that they're not related. But when you're talking about your own son, it kind of sends mixed signals. Not because Shedeur is a horrible player, because he's not. He's good. It's because it seems that daddy will not be critical towards son in the same manner that he is critical towards others. Because at the end of the day, he's good. You guys just need to do the right thing around him to make sure he succeeds. That's the mentality of Coach Prime. And players are starting to see that. They're starting to see that. And that's what ends up planting the seeds and setting the seeds and planting the foundation of jealousy and envious minds. They have the money, they have the wealth, they have the fame, they have the name. I'm just here to build them up. That's the dichotomy. Coach Prime and sons, rest of the team, we're here, the rest of the team, we are here to build them up. That's an inevitable divide. You don't see the division. When you see the camera, you see a panoramic view and everything's whole. Everyone's in the locker room. You see glimpses of people laughing in the corner. Your coaches in the corner rah-rah, and you have motivational speeches going on. Everything looks cohesive. But we all know this, the old idiom, what glitters is not always gold. I don't think that players that are speaking out against the program are wrong. They're just wrong for making it public, because there's going to be backlash. The same thing that happens to Cormani will happen to anybody else. So I've spent 20 minutes talking before I've read this article, but I wanted to lay down the foundation of why I'm going to think the way I'm thinking, because there's already a divide. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not saying this either. I'm not saying that Coach Prime is deliberately trying to divide the locker room. I'm not saying that. No one does that. No one intentionally tries to divide the locker room. He's not doing that. Indirectly, he's doing it. He's not directly doing it in terms of, I have a motive, I'm going to come into this locker room and divide it. That's not what Coach Prime is trying to do. He wants the locker room to be together. But the way he's handling the locker room and the way he talks about his son repeatedly, I'm not saying he doesn't talk well about other players. He does. He does. He gives shout outs to players that do well academically. He talks about players who do well in practice. Even in the press conference, he talked about one of the walk-ons that earned a scholarship. He talked highly of him. I'm not saying that he doesn't. I'm talking about the overall grand scheme of when the weeks and the months are playing out, when adversity hits. Like things like I'm going to read right now. You see, I remember, and I'm going to start reading after this, and I'm sorry that I'm taking so long to get into the article before I break down the article. I remember when athletes back then who were really great, and they would get on the mic, and a reporter would shove a microphone in their face, and the reporter would say, "You did well today. You scored 35 points, 12 rebounds. You had an excellent game." When the athlete would say, "I want to thank my teammates for getting me the ball in good situations. We played well. We defended. We came together as a team. We did not allow the other team who went on a run to overtake us." When a good player, who clearly is the best player on the team, starts to use terms like we, team, and stays away from the personal pronouns of I and me, people applaud that. Because it's like, okay, you're a team guy. Even though you're great, we know that the majority of the team's success is on you, but you're not bigger than the team to the point where you get in front of a microphone, you're always highlighting your accolades. You're always highlighting your statistics. And you sort of undermine and marginalize your teammates because it's a team sport. If you don't acknowledge them, then they're going to pull away from you. That's where the divide occurs. I'm giving you that analogy to understand what's going on with Coach Prime and Colorado University. When Coach Prime keeps talking about his son Shedeur and talking about Travis, them being the first 5 in the top 5 pick in the draft, stop doing that, Coach Prime. Let their play speak for itself. You don't need to promote that. Let the sports pundits do it. You're not a sports pundit. You're a coach now. You used to be a sports pundit when you worked with NFL Network. I understand when you were in that field, you can do that. You can dissect players. You can talk about what their projections may be, so and so on. When they get into the NFL, you can dissect we get that. As a coach, you have to stay away from that. Your main objective is to build kids, which you're doing. I'm not saying that you're not, but you're not doing it in the best way, because you keep talking about your son and Travis so much that Colorado University seems to be a team that's an entertainment business, a reality show that's predicated on Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, and Shiloh. And everybody else are just disposable or just moving parts to be an add-on to the main agenda, which is to push the agenda of the Sanders. Those actions over time repeatedly, and even the way they responded on this article that I'm gonna read, it feeds into that dichotomy that I talked about earlier, the haves and have-nots. Okay, let me start reading. Thank you guys for your patience. All right. The article is entitled, it says, Colorado's Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders blast critics, and these critics are the former players during social media exchange. It says here the Sanders family made waves on social media with some interesting engagements this week. And this article is written by Will Bacchus. All right, Will Bacchus. All right, here we go. It says Colorado coach Deion Sanders and his son, Buffalo's quarterback Shedeur Sanders, certainly aren't afraid to get mixed up on social media. Okay? Now, when Cormani McClain talked about playing for clicks, this is part of the click stuff. Prime, get off social media. In this regard, they're not afraid to get mixed up on social media. You should be very afraid to get mixed up on social media, because the residual impact of such an act is far more catastrophic than you actually think. Though for the present time in doing it, you get a lot of clicks and responses, but the long-term effects are detrimental to your team. It's detrimental to team chemistry, it's detrimental to team camaraderie, and it's detrimental to program building if you are about building a program. Stay off of social media. The fact that the article says they're not afraid to do this means that it's something that they do all the time. It's something that's normal for Coach Prime. So Colorado coach Deion Sanders and his son, Buffalo's quarterback Shedeur Sanders, certainly aren't afraid to get mixed up on social media. The pair, father and son, have spent a good portion of this week defending their program from outside criticism, some of which has come from former players who transferred out. I wouldn't answer the critics, Coach Prime. The same thing that we're demonizing, the same thing that Cormani's being demonized for going out on social media and saying that he doesn't want to play for clicks, that he'd rather go to a program that's centered more around football and developing their players. The same reason why we're condemning him, I think we should also hold that same frequency and energy and apply that same metric to this as well. Why does a grown man, why does Deion Sanders have to come out and defend anything? Cormani was defending his name, or he tried to. It didn't go so well. The timing of it, as I said before in my previous video, the timing was off. Why does Coach Prime get an adult? He's not a child. Why does he get absolved of this action? Why does he get a pass? You don't have to defend anything. Isn't that what you guys always say? When I get on here and I talk about how coaches were leaving, I said coaches were leaving, players are leaving. It's a huge turnaround. You guys said, oh, it happens all the time in college football. Okay. You know what else happens all the time in college football? Players who transfer, who have critique about their past team, that happens a lot. Why the hell do you have to defend anything? If it's something that happens all the time, it's not a big deal, right? Why defend it? But when I came out talking about, hey, man, this is a huge deal. The first year of Coach Prime, defensive coordinator left, offensive coordinator left, other coaches are leaving, players are jumping ship after his first year. I said that was a big deal. That's not normal. Maybe after the second or third year, you may have players that bounce and leave. But when I said it, oh, it's not a big deal. It happens all the time in college football. Players leave. Okay. But we also know that when players leave, they also have things to say about their old team. That's normal. Because most of the times players are leaving because they're disgruntled. Either they weren't getting enough playing time, or they felt like, I don't know, it could be numerous reasons why players leave, but most of them are not positive. Because if they were positive, why would you leave? Why would you leave a good situation to go to a worse situation? Most players are leaving because they see the grass being greener on the other side of the fence. So most of the time when players transfer, they do have something to say that's critical about their past team. That's normal, right? So why the hell is Coach Prime defending CU? Why defend it? Why? The pair have spent a good portion of this week defending their program from outside criticism, some of which has come from former players who transferred out. I remember the saying. The saying goes, you are what you answer to. You are what you answer to. The fact that you're answering to the critics means that there has to be some merit to the criticism. Why are you answering to it? You have to be above the criticism. You know what? You know how you respond to criticism? Put out an immaculate product out on the football field and dominate. That's how you answer the criticism. Then you make them look foolish. But when you're going tit for tat and the season hasn't even started yet, it's not a good look. Yeah, I'm going to be critical. That's not a good look, Coach Prime. You don't have to defend anything. And then it's like you and your son are together doing it. That's more of a divide to your own locker room. It's us against them. It's us against any player on the team that has the same sentiments as the ex-players, and it's us against the ex-players as well. That goes to that dichotomy I was talking about, the divide that you can't see with the naked eye. It's there. It's there. I'm sure after this experience goes through years from now, you're going to have players coming out and talking about the dynamic of the locker room, the dynamic of the team. That it wasn't all what you guys saw on the camera. There were more things going on behind the scenes that weren't talked about. You guys got to be deeper thinkers. You can't be that gullible. And you can't do... Man, let me keep reading. I don't want to get off on a tangent here. All right. So the pair have spent a good portion this week defending their program from outside criticism, some of which has come from former players who transferred out. It all started when The Athletic published an expose documenting the experiences of former Colorado players who left the program in 2022 ahead of Sanders' first season in Boulder. Ex-defensive back Xavier Smith told The Atlantic that Sanders never tried to get to know him and recommended that he entered the portal. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. If the coach doesn't want to get to know you, you have a right to enter the portal. But the problem with that is the narrative that's being painted about Coach Prime, about him being, what did Uncle Neely say on DNVR Sports? He was like, oh, he's everywhere. He has an open door policy. He's always in the locker room. He's talking with the guys and da 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 da. That's not what was said before about him. He's probably trying to change that image. So if you put out the image that you're about your players and talking to them, this doesn't align with that. It doesn't align with it at all. He's saying that you didn't even try to get to know him. Maybe that's not a big deal. Maybe coaches shouldn't get to try to know their players. But you know about your son. You know about Travis Hunter. You know about Shiloh and Shedeur. All I'm saying is this. The same energy that you put forth towards your sons and adopted son is the same energy you should put forth to all of them, to every player. Even the guy that doesn't even get in the game. I said this before. When you're doing that walk down the sideline with Shedeur before the game, I would rather you walk with your whole team, Coach Prime. It shows a sign of unity. At least it gives off the perception of unity. Now, what you guys do in the locker room is totally different. But on national television, just to walk with your son, I understand, I get it. He's the quarterback. Yes. But we know the affinity and the love that he has for his son is very strong. Why not let that essence matriculate to the rest of the team? Gather everybody else around. The offensive line, the defensive line, the whole team, the whole roster. I know it's going to look stupid, but either do it with all members of the team or do not do it at all. Because the camera is just panning. Follow me, Coach Prime and his son, as they walk down the sideline and up, back the sideline again. Walk with your team. Your son is not bigger than the team. Because we all know if the offensive line says, F it, we're not going to block, your son is going to be broken. You're going to need your offensive linemen. You're going to need your receivers to catch the ball. You're going to need the defense to make stops so you guys can win. So it's in your best interest, Coach Prime, to walk with your team. Or don't walk with anybody at all. Because remember, you're not a typical coach. This is your son. That's what I mean by daddy ball, man. It's a separation of my son and team. It's natural. As a parent, it's natural. It's hard to put on the objective coach hat and coach everyone the same when your son is one of the best players on the team. So I believe in this situation, Prime is a victim of his fatherhood. He's a victim of his own blood. He can't help it. It'd have been best if he was just a spectator on the sideline just watching the game. But as a coach of a team, it's tough. It's hard. So, again, let me get back to the article. It all started when The Athletic published an expose documenting the experiences of former Colorado players who left the program in 2022 ahead of Sanders' first season in Boulder. Ex-defensive back Xavier Smith told The Atlantic that Sanders, quote, never tried to get to know him and recommended he entered the portal. That puts Shedeur on the offense. Now, Shedeur is going to be on the offense now. He's hearing somebody say something. But to me, I don't even know why Shedeur needs to be on the offense here. So what if your dad didn't try to get to know him? Leave it alone. You should just be concentrated on winning football games. Who gives a damn what somebody's saying online about your dad not wanting to get to know them? He didn't curse out your dad. He didn't say anything disrespectful. He just said he didn't get to know me, and he recommended I entered the portal. That was simple. So that puts Shedeur on the offensive. Then this is what Shedeur says, quote, I don't even remember him. I-O-N. I don't even remember him. To be honest, bro had to be very mid at best. Very immature response. Very, very immature response. So because the ex-player Xavier Smith says something about your father not getting to know him and told him to enter the transfer portal, you feel the need to try to defend your dad as if your dad's not a grown man. He's the coach of the team. He doesn't need to actually respond to athletes that leave. All right? You feel the need to get low and say you don't even know if you remember him, as if he was just a nobody, because that's what that insinuates. Trust me, Shedeur is very calculated in how he's saying this. I don't even remember him, to be honest. Bro had to be very mid at best, Sanders tweeted in response to the Athletic story. So he had to be average at best. He wasn't that good. He was a nobody. So in other words, what you're saying, Shedeur, see, it's loaded. See, that's why you have to be very careful what you put on print, what's printed, because we can now dissect and analyze the terms that you're using. So what you're saying is that he was a nobody. You don't even know if you remember him, to be honest. And if he was a player, he was at best average. So in other words, your dad is justified in ignoring him and not getting to know him and telling him to scoot, enter the portal. That's what you're saying without saying it. So you can see how Shedeur and father have the same mentality. And he even said it. Prime said it on an interview. He said Shiloh reminds him of his, it was something he said. He said both of his sons have a quality of him. But he said that the confidence is what Shedeur has that Coach Prime has. He said they share that same quality. They also share the same sentiment and mindset. What Shedeur is saying here, the reason why he's backing up his father is saying, yeah, Dad, if they're not that good, why should you pay them mind? Why would you pay attention to a kid that was there on the previous team that was 1-11? Why would you give him any time? He was average at best. I don't even think I remember him. Scoot, shoot, enter the portal, get out, goodbye. So when you read between the lines, that's what Shedeur is saying. That's not speculation. That's me analyzing his quote. I don't even remember him, to be honest. Because if he was good, people remember good people. If you're an athlete and you can do spectacular things on the football field or on the basketball court or where there's track and field, you will be remembered. Even if you are the opposition, you're going to be remembered. I don't remember him. To be honest, bro was very mid at best. So his ceiling was average. We don't do average here at CU. Look at me, I'm Shedeur. My dad is Deion Sanders. Do you think we do average over here? Please, get out of here. Enter the portal. Get the hell out of Colorado. Yeah, I'm backing up my father on this. Get out of here. That's what I read when I read that quote. All right, moving along here. It says, in the Athletic, there's a snapshot or an excerpt of the X exchange, the Twitter account, the X comment The Athletic said Deion Sanders recommended Xavier Smith hit the transfer portal like many others. And then it says he didn't, meaning that that Coach Prime didn't send him to the portal, tell him to hit the portal, or that Xavier Smith did not go through the portal. This is not making sense to me, but let me read along. Maybe if I read along, I'll be able to piece this together. Let me go on. It says Deion Sanders recommended Xavier Smith hit the transfer portal like many others. He didn't. Okay, so I guess Coach Prime didn't. It's saying that Coach Prime didn't. During spring practices, Xavier Smith, felt more like an extra in the background. Okay, so it makes sense. So Xavier Smith did not hit the transfer portal. He stayed because obviously he felt like I'm not gonna run like a coward. Even though I know Coach Prime is coming here, he's pushing certain players out because he wants a crop of guys to come in. He wants to bring in his Louis luggage. He wants to dominate immediately. He's not into the game of developing young players or anything like that. He wants to bring in a new wardrobe. And he has plenty of luggage, all right, with the wardrobe that are going to be brought out of that luggage. So in this case, Xavier Smith didn't bite the bait. He says, no, I'm not going to let him scare me off. I'm going to stay. So he did not hit the transfer portal. So he says, during spring practices, Xavier Smith felt more like an extra in the background of the reality show. A reality show. How many times do I call this a reality show? It's no different than you guys watching, not that you guys watch it, but it's no different than people who watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians or a litany of those stupid reality shows that are on TV. There's nothing real about a reality show, need I remind you. There's nothing real about it. It's curated, it's edited. They have music in the background to stimulate your cerebral cortex, the mood receptors in your brain, dopamine receptors. It's all manipulation. Even when you see well-off media, there's not raw footage. It's clipped. He's showing you what he wants you to see. Even documentaries are not always factual. They're slanted. They give you information. They keep it in a narrow lane to keep you in their narrow lane because they want to shape your mind within the lane that they've paved. They have the road paved and they're saying, get on this road and we're going to take you to where we want you to go. They don't give you the full spectrum of the road because they know if they gave you this full spectrum of the road, you'll be able to make different decisions and have options to go in which lane that you choose. So whenever you're watching this reality show called Coach Prime, whether he's doing press conferences and everyone tunes in, and you have the many blind supporters that are out there just talking great about everything that he does and how great Colorado is and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. That's the reality show. That's the show minus the reality. But they call it a reality show. Once you add in the show, it takes away from the essence of what reality is. Because reality is not a show. Reality is reality. But when you add show to reality, it becomes a form of entertainment. It's like you watching a show on television. Those shows aren't freaking real. It's a freaking show. So pay attention to wordplay. Reality show. It's a show. So during the spring practices, Xavier Smith felt more like an extra in the background of the reality show. Frustration set in before he eventually left for Austin Peay. All right, frustration set in. Then this is a response. Oh, this is what Xavier said. This is on X. He says, bro, you never even tried to get to know me. Xavier Smith recalls Deion Sanders telling him he should enter the portal. Okay, I already read that. Then I think they're just giving the receipts of what was said on X. He was okay, and this is what Xavier Smith said. He said this. He was destroying guys' confidence and belief in themselves. The way he did it, it could have been done with a little more compassion. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you're about building young men, if you're about the youth, if you are truly about that, Coach Prime, you should not be treating young men this way. These young men have fathers and mothers. These young men are brothers. They have a family too. The world doesn't revolve around you and your son Shedeur. You should be a little bit more compassionate. We understand that coaches come in sometimes, they want to revamp the team, and sometimes they'll do certain things to get certain players out. But it's a way that you can do it that's easily accepted. That doesn't come across as you being just in the process of destroying people's confidence. Why would you do that? Oh, I get it. The Coach Prime apologetics. This is what they'll say. Well, he has to pushed him out to see who really wants it. He wants to be hard, and he knows that if you stay, that you believe in yourself. That could be true. That could be true. It could be true. It could be true. But when you're killing God's confidence, well, if he killed his confidence, he wasn't good to begin with. That's why he transferred to Austin Peay. Remember, Shedeur says he was mid at best anyway. So players that are not top 5 athletes or 5-star athletes, or if a player is not Shedeur, or if a player is not Travis Hunter, they deserve they deserve to be treated like trash, I guess, because I mean, you're not that good anyway. No, these are human beings. Don't destroy anybody's confidence, because you don't know what can come of that person. All right? The way he did it, he could have been done with a little bit more compassion. That's all they wanted, was a little bit more compassion. These were young athletes that probably looked up to Coach Prime. Probably not anymore. Shedeur's post drew wide criticism from fans and some players alike. That comment, I told you, was a dig. Talk about digs. That was a dig at Xavier Smith. Oh, I don't even remember who that dude, to be honest with you. If he was mid at best. Who knows? Shedeur's post drew wide criticism from fans and some players alike. Eventually, Coach Prime joined in to defend his son. You see how that works? Yo, he's always going to defend his son. His son could do no wrong. Even when the son was allowed to go take a fashion model, go to some model gig, and I think, did they go to Paris for that? I believe. And it was a schedule conflict. I think they had the first team meeting or something like that. He allowed his 2 sons to go. So, he's always going to defend his sons. His sons could do no wrong. So, Coach Prime joined in to defend his son. This is what Coach Prime says. Coach Prime says, quote, "He will be a top 5 pick. Where your son going? Ha ha ha. I got time today. Ha 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 ha." So, a very childish response. Your response is to talk about your son being a top 5 pick. Where's your son going? Nah, man. That's not the response you should have at all. That's childish. That's what middle schoolers and high schoolers do when they're going back and forth. I'm gonna be a first round pick, and you're not gonna be a first round. Like, come on, Coach Prime, you're bigger than that. Bigger than that. Replying to Shedeur's initial comments, Colorado wide receiver Caleb Mathis uploaded a video in which he apparently beats Smith, who transferred to Austin Peay in 2023 in one-on-one routes on air practice rep. Eastern Kentucky defensive back Jaheim Ward responded to Mathis' now deleted post by writing, "Bruh, you had 38 yards last year. Stop trying to downplay somebody." So now they're going back and forth. You have this guy, so you have Ward, who played with Smith at Austin Peay before transferring to Eastern Kentucky during the transfer portal winter window. A fan account replied to Ward with a screenshot of his stats from the 2023 season, showing he logged 20 total tackles and 4 pass deflections. That drew Dion back into the mix. So you have a going back and forth, right? You have Jaheim Ward, Eastern Kentucky defensive back Jaheim Ward, responded to Mathis' now deleted post by writing, "Bruh, you had 38 yards last year. Stop trying to downplay somebody." Okay, so Jaheim Ward is not having it. All right? And he's responding to Xavier Smith. All right? The fan account replied to Ward with the screenshot of his stats from the 2023 season, showing he logged 20 tackles and 4 pass deflections. All right. Ward fired the last salvo in this seemingly concluded social media beef, quoting, "Sanders with his own screenshot featured Colorado defensive back Shallow Sanders, Another of Deion's sons, statistics from 2023 season. Damn, it's crazy. I got more pass deflections than your son. Ward wrote with two-headed clown emojis for emphasis. Colorado did have another busy offseason, particularly in relation to the transfer portal. 41 players exited via the portal through the winter and spring windows, but the Buffaloes bolstered their ranks with 35 new additions from other college programs. Okay, so that's the article there that I just wanted to read. There's no need for father and son to go back and forth with critics. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think that the way you counter critics is just to put out a win product out there on the football field. All this energy of being on social media, answering and putting stuff on camera, like, just take all that energy and just focus on the football aspect. And your season will be more successful than it would be if you're doing otherwise. All right? So reply to your initial comments. Colorado wide receiver Caleb Mathis uploaded a video in which he apparently beat Smith, who transferred to Austin Peay. Bruh, you had 38 yards last year. Stop trying to downplay anybody. Wow. Yeah. So you have Ward going back at the guy who posted the footage. See, people are just now it becomes a war of he said, she said, my side, your side. And that macrocosm of them against us is going to spill into the locker room in terms of the micro perspective, the smaller perspective, the granular perspective, because it's happening inside the locker room. That dynamic is going to have a little twist and divide in there too, because as you have ex-players that are leaving, and then they're talking about their experiences with Prime, and what even the players that recently left, I'm sure they're going to have a platform to say what they want to say. So it's going to be them against Prime and his kids. It's not about the team. See, when you attack the team, you won't get much response from Prime. But when you attack his sons, then you're going to get a response. But the attacking of his son is attacking the team, but it's different because that's the son of the father. He's the head coach. So there goes that complex dynamic that I talked about earlier that makes it even more complicated. All right? So there you go, guys. You shouldn't have to respond. And that's my take on it. Stay off of social media. And you guys, the football season hasn't even begun. And you guys are being talked about so much that you guys are just creating a bigger bullseye on your back and playing a whole new crop of people moving to the Big Ten? Yeah, they're moving to the Big Ten conference. Or Big 12. Is it Big 12 or Big 10? I think it's Big 10. We'll see how they go. We'll see how it goes for them. We'll see. But that's my take, guys. And thank you for listening. And I'll be back on here to provide you guys another video. All right. Take care, guys. All right. Bye.